Hi everyone, this is Chris. It was great to see you all yesterday. At the end of Logos yesterday, I made a quick announcement that I've just got a wee video here that will recap what was said for those of you who weren't able to make it, and just as a refresh for those who were. And so you have all the info available just in this video. So basically, the announcement was that we are launching a short, compact program this semester at Logos with 5 external speakers from across Scotland to help us to think in Logos about moving from study to work. We know that the pandemic has caused so many problems, but one of the biggest problems that it's caused is how it's impacted on jobs and the economy. And we know that, especially for people who are our age, it's a very uncertain time in that respect. So we wanted to provide a space specific for that will help us in making that that step, that transition from study to work. So we've called it transition, but yes, there we are. So the aim of the program, basically, I mean, at its core, is to help you to make the transition from study into the working world as a Christian, whether that's from school or from college or from university. The career services in, well, I know my own experience, the career services in universities are fantastic, and I would highly recommend that you use their services, which you can do for up to 2 years after you graduate. But what we want to do here is specifically think about it in light of our faith, and moving into that world in faith, which is quite different from what it's like at university. We also want to facilitate really good networking opportunities with Christians who are leaders across different sectors in Scotland, who the external speakers will be. They're all Christians, and they're all leaders in fields of work outside the church. And that'll be a really good opportunity then to speak to them and to make contact with them, and to ask them, especially if their own sector is kind of linked up to what you think you might go on to do after you finish studying. So hopefully that'll be a good opportunity. And also just to provide the space to think more deeply about the role that we ourselves can play in the working world for the Great Commission. As Christians, we're all called to the Great Commission. We all know that, and that looks different for everybody, going to make disciples of all nations. And for a lot of us, especially in the next few years, that will mean doing so in the world of work. So we wanted to provide a space to think about that and the role that we can play ourselves more deeply when there might not be a chance to in other contexts. So basically, we know that you're all zoomed out after 10 months of Zoom life. So we don't want to overload on the Zoom. So we've tried to keep this as compact as possible. So the last Saturday of each month from January to May, we'll have 1 hour on Zoom with each one of our speakers, with time for Q&A at the end. So as I say, they'll be from different sectors, and they'll be speaking on a different theme each month as well as talking practically about about getting jobs and moving, making that transition and everything. So and as well, after each session on the Facebook group, we're going to post written resources and biblical case studies, which you can read and think about in your own time, to think about your own professional development and how that links with your spiritual development and your faith as well. So you'll see what I mean just here. So this is our current plan. Some of the speakers may change. Most are set, but basically the topic, resources, and biblical case studies will definitely be as they're put here. Pretty much. So as you can see, what I mean, the resources are about kind of like practically what is, the steps to which we get a job, the actually living in that routine of working full time, and all that that means kind of for our lives as Christians. That's hopefully encompassed quite well within the resources. And then the biblical case studies are from all over the Bible. It's looking at individual people in the Bible, looking at how they live their, obviously not all of them, well, pretty much all of them, they weren't software developers, or they weren't, some other modern equivalent. But it's more about their character. It's more about the way that they live their lives, and what we can learn from that in how we marry faith and work. So hopefully they will be really good for that. Yeah. So that's what we've got so far. So our first speaker in January will be Kieran Turner. So he's the public policy officer at the Evangelical Alliance Scotland, a rep organization, an umbrella organization for evangelical churches across Scotland that does advocacy work in the Scottish Parliament, and amongst other things. That's kind of what he does. And he also founded and directs their Scottish Public Leader Programme, which is kind of along similar lines to what we're trying to achieve here, whereby he helps Christians who are leaders across different sectors to grow in their development professionally, but also as a Christian, to help shape the culture in Scotland to be better. So yeah, he's an elder at Parkhead Nazarene Church, which is in the east side of Glasgow. It's a really amazing church, and they out of their own ministries, they're quite well known in amongst the third sector for especially their help with refugees and with women who are in difficult situations. Yeah, he's an elder there. So yeah, that's it basically. I think at the minute we're thinking 1 p.m. So that will hopefully suit all time zones that aren't GMT, if you haven't been able to come back to Edinburgh yet. And Kieran will be speaking to us kind of as like a broad intro, helping us to think deeply about Scotland, or I guess the Western world, North America, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, that type of context, and what it means to live and work in that context, that kind of post-Christian context that we will be going into the working world in, more than likely. And we'll post the resources and the biblical case studies after that as well. So thanks very much for watching and listening. And if you have any questions about any of that, feel free to message me or anybody else on the core team. If you don't know who's on the core team, if you look at the admins on the Facebook group, that's all the people who are on the core team or help run the Logos ministry. So you can ask any of them too. Okay. We will post some reminders and things in the future, and you'll see it in the bulletin as well, I think, hopefully. So yeah, all the best, and hope you have a great week.